Here is a headline that fools almost everyone. India's foreign exchange reserves fell by about $5.65 billion in a single week, sliding to roughly $667 billion. The instant reaction is that the central bank must have been spending its dollars to prop up the rupee. But that reaction is usually wrong. Most of that drop had nothing to do with the Reserve Bank selling a single dollar. This is the story of what these reserves really are, and why the headline number moves for reasons that have nothing to do with intervention. Here is why this matters. Foreign exchange reserves are a country's financial shock absorber. They are what lets India pay for imports and defend the rupee in a crisis. So every week people scan that number for a signal. But the number moves for two completely different reasons, and mixing them up leads you to the wrong conclusion. The first reason is intervention, an actual flow, where the central bank buys or sells dollars in the market. The second reason is revaluation, a price change, where nothing is bought or sold, but the value of what is already held simply gets remeasured. Read a fall as intervention when it was really revaluation, and you will imagine a currency under pressure that is not actually there. So the payoff to grasp early is simple. Before you react to a reserves headline, you have to ask which of these two forces moved it. So let us open the box. India's reserves are not a single pile of dollars. They are made of several parts. The largest is foreign currency assets, held in a mix of currencies and safe foreign bonds. Then there is a large and growing stack of gold, and there are smaller holdings tied to the International Monetary Fund. Now here is the crucial detail. The whole thing is reported in dollars, but most of it is not dollars. So every week, the value of the gold and the value of the non-dollar currencies has to be translated back into dollars at the latest market prices. That translation happens whether or not anyone trades anything. And that is exactly where the illusion is born. Now watch the machine work. Suppose the price of gold falls in a given week. India did not sell any gold. It still holds every ounce. But because the reserves are reported in dollars, the dollar value of that gold is now lower and the headline total drops. The same thing happens with currencies. If the euro or the yen weakens against the dollar, then the euros and yen sitting in the reserves are worth fewer dollars, even though not one of them was sold. This is pure revaluation, an accounting remeasurement, not a policy action, and it explains the very drop we started with. In that week, the value of India's gold holdings fell by about $5.39 billion. Set that against the total fall of $5.65 billion, and you can see that gold alone accounted for almost the entire decline. The foreign currency assets barely moved, so the scary headline about reserves falling was, in truth, mostly the story about the gold price, not about the central bank defending the rupee. Now put the pieces on a scale, because the composition is what makes this swing so easy to misread. Of the roughly $667 billion, foreign currency assets make up about $541 billion, and gold is now a very large holding of around $102.5 billion. That gold stack has grown into a serious chunk of the reserves, and here is the consequence. The bigger the gold and non-dollar share becomes, the more the headline reserves number will jump around purely because of price changes in gold and currencies, with no intervention at all. A war chest that is increasingly made of gold is also, by design, a number that wobbles more from week to week for reasons that have nothing to do with the rupee. So here is the lens to keep. When a reserves number moves, do not jump to the conclusion that the central bank was fighting the currency. First, separate valuation from flow. Ask what gold did that week, and what the dollar did against the euro and the yen. Often, most of the move is just remeasurement. Only what is left over, after you strip out those price effects, tells you anything about actual intervention. India's own central bank has repeatedly said its aim is to curb excessive volatility, not to defend any particular level of the rupee. So the thing to watch is not the dramatic headline. It is the composition underneath it, and the small flow that remains once the price effects are removed. Read it that way, and a number that fools almost everyone becomes a number you can actually understand.